recommendation, this prescription is of great value. Who would have thought that this prescription can be of use to a woman who has been abused under attack? Are you under spiritual attack in the night? Are you under physical attack by your neighbors? Your neighbors can attack you. Your colleagues can call you names. Those who are under you can attack you. Is any among you under attack? This prescription works. It's a prescription that will work for any pain, any trouble, any condition. Another one says, is any among you going through hardship? Hardship. Hardship. Hardship is something that people go through. You have become a hewer of water. A hewer of wood and a drawer of water. A young lady who recently relocated to the UK, I got to know about it, and she now called me one day and she was crying. I said, what's happening? He said, this life is too hard. I said, pray. Now the Bible, that's what, it's not me telling you how to pray. The Bible says so. Is any among you going through hardship? I like this other one. Is any among you miserable? Are you miserable? Are you lonely? Are you miserable? Have you been left standing in the sand? Have you been abandoned to yourself? A doctor coming from South Africa who has been preparing to relocate to Canada and has done the exam about 2 or 3 times and didn't pass. So a few days ago he said, I am tired. I said, what are you tired of? He said, everything. I am tired. What was my recommendation? Don't get tired. No, pray. Now, do you understand what I'm saying now? You see, the point is this. The person who was writing this, the man's name was called James. The man's knees, like this when he died, were callous by reason of kneeling down. One man says, if you can kneel before any situation, he said, if you can kneel before God, you can stand before any situation. The reason why people faint is because they don't pray. Luke 18 verse 1. He said, man ought always to pray and not to faint. Actually, to faint means to become cowards, to run away, to give up, to throw in the towel, to abandon the sheep. There are women who cannot pray, so they stopped trying to have children. There are people who cannot pray, so they stop when they fail one exam after another exam. Why did they stop? They can't pray. Prayer is the capital that you give God, with which he does business in your life. If you can pray, prayer is the sovereign remedy to any spiritual malady. It's a sovereign remedy to any financial situation. Whatever the crises are, the Christ in you will emerge if only you can pray. Men ought always, you see that word always again? To pray and not to faint. Why do men faint? They can't pray. Now, many of you have heard about Apostle Joseph Abalola of CAC. And probably you have heard about John Wesley. Now, these two people were unlucky to have very good wives like Pastor Gbenga here. Pastor Gbenga's wife is a very good companion. But those two men of God, they didn't have good wives. But you can still hear about their exploits in ministry today. Why? Because they prayed. It was their prayer that made them come out and be successful. You won't hear about their wives because they were the thorn by their side. They were the people that drove those two men to prayer. They didn't give up on their marriages. You see, because some people give up on afflicting situation. They give up easily. Why? Because you can't pray. Not because the other person is so terrible. The wife of Joseph Abalola was not a good woman at all by any standard. The wife of John Wesley was not a good woman by any standard. But they could not stop those people's ministry from emerging. of the things I hear that they said, the wife destroyed his ministry. No wife can destroy your ministry if you can pray. It was the wife that destroyed the church. No wife can destroy the church if you can pray. If men can pray, solution. If women can pray, solution is a divine prescription. It's not based on the author of a book. It's not based on the author of some kind of gimmick. It's the author of life. Who knows what can come out of whatever situation you are going through? So briefly, I want to give us some reasons why people go through pain in life. But let me give you the last definition here. He said, men ought always to pray. In James 5:13, he said, is any among you suffering? Is any among you under attack? Is any among you going through pain? Is any among you under hardship or miserable? Is any among you troubled? Is any among you maltreated? Is he among you troubled? Then it says, is any among you suffering? Now, I want to give you some reasons why Christians suffer. Why do Christians suffer in life? Why do we get under attack? Why does Satan attack us? Why do we get trouble? Why do we get tormented? I want to give you 7 reasons for trouble in life. 7 reasons, 7 sources of our challenges. And you will discover that if you are not in one situation, you are in another situation. There is nobody who is not in any of these 7 situations. So that is why it says, is any among you? It's a common thing. There is no child of God who is not under attack. There is no child of God that doesn't have his own talent. I was telling somebody recently, I said, God told me as a young Christian, don't make your problem somebody else's problem because everybody's got a problem. Do you know that everybody's got a problem? For some people, their problem is that they don't have a job. Some people, the problem is what? The job they have. Some people, their problem is that they don't have children. Some people, you know what their problem is? The children they have. Some people, their problem is that they don't have a house. Some people, you know what it is? They have the house that they have. So everybody's got something they are dealing with. So you cannot put your problem on anybody. It becomes too much to be a burden instead of being a blessing. So everybody's got issues. In this world, there's nobody who does not have one attack, suffering, torment, ill treatment, maltreatment. Everybody is treated somehow. Whether ill treated or maltreated, everybody is troubled. Everybody have issues. That is why you need to take this medication. Everybody needs this medication. This is not only for people with high blood pressure. This is not only for people who are married. Even single people suffer. Married people suffer. Oh, one single boy said, the reason why I'm suffering is because I'm single. I said, it's not. He said, no, it is. So when he got married, I saw him. I said, are you suffering? I said, the suffering of marriage. He said, but I said, you see now? Some people think they are suffering because they are an employee. When you start your own business, you know that employers of labor suffer. In fact, more. Employee, just wait for the end of the month. Employer worry for the end of the month because he has to pay salaries. So everybody is going through something. That's why prayer becomes. You see, when I see people don't come for prayer meeting, I say, you are not handling your life with care. If you don't know how to pray, you can't look. Life will be one of the most difficult existence for you as a person. So let's look at it here. Why do people suffer? Why are people troubled or why are people attacked? Number one, the reason why people suffer, number one, is because as a direct result of our unconfessed sins. Direct result of our unconfessed sins. 1 John 1:9 said, if we say we have no sin, we deceive ourselves. That is not talking to unbelievers. It's talking to Christians. Unbelievers don't confess their sins because they don't even know what a sin is. But a believer knows what a sin is, except you are dead inside. When you do something that is wrong, you know this is not right. Though you may be explaining it away, but you know deep down that something is wrong. Because of our unconfessed sin. 1 John chapter 2 verse 1. He said, these things have we written unto you that you sin not. He said, but if you sin. He said, we wrote this to you that you should sin. But if you sin, you have an advocate with the Father. The prodigal child suffered because of his sins. All he went through in the far land was because of his sins, rejecting his father and choosing his own ways. So there are some sins that are unconfessed, because even some sins that you and I commit is not by commission, it's by omission. There are sins of commission, there are sins of omission. A sin of commission is when you do the wrong thing. A sin of omission is when you do not do the right thing. James 4:17. To him that knoweth to do good and does not do it, it's sin. You know you should pay tithe and you don't. You know you should give and you don't. You know you should not forsake the assembly together of one another and you don't. You don't. You know you should not walk in the counsel of the ungodly and you walk in the counsel of the ungodly. So sins of commission means when you do what is wrong. Sins of omission is when you fail to do what is right. So many times we have unconfessed sins in our lives. Some sins we commit by action. Some things we commit by thought. Proverbs 24:9. He said the thought of foolishness is sin. You know what a foolish thought is? When you are thinking and you think God does not know what you are thinking. Psalm 14 verse 1. Psalm 53 verse 1. He said the fool saith in his heart, there is no God. When your thought does not accommodate the knowledge of God, you are thinking and you think God is not aware. That's why that rich man was called a rich fool. His ground brought forth abundantly in Luke 12. And the man said, I know where I'm good. You know all the man said? He said 60 words. But do you know they were thoughts? They were not words. He said he thought within himself, saying, he thought within himself, saying, I know what I will do. I will pull down my barn. I will build a big one. And I will put everything that I've just had in this big one. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have so much laid in store for you. Eat and be merry. And that day, God sent an angel, and the angel struck him, and in 3 days he was dead. He was dying gradually. He was dying while he was yet living. And God called him fool. In the beginning, it says, a certain rich man. At the end, it was a rich fool. And how he became a fool? By the way he was thinking. So the first source of suffering, unconfessed sin. Sin that we have sinned and have not confessed. Number two, the second reason why we are under attack and tormented and maltreated, because of other people's sin that have not been broken. Other people in our lives. Do you know there are certain things you and I can suffer from because we are part of a lineage? Because the effect of sin does not end with you. The effect of sin does not end with the person who committed the sin. The effect of sin go on to the second, the third, and in some instances, the fourth generation. The effect of a sin lasts 120 years from when it is committed. Lamentations 5, 6, 7. He said, our fathers have sinned and they are no more. And we are bearing the brunt of their sin. Ezekiel 18:2. The fathers have eaten sour grapes. The teeth of the children are set on edges. There are some fathers who marry some mothers they should have married 90 years ago, and it is affecting the way you are living your life. You have some medical condition now because of where you are from at times. We do not just inherit assets from the place where we are. We also inherit liability. I was telling my daughter, some of you know her when she was here. And I said, listen, you have good things to inherit from me, but also be careful about some bad things that I inherited from my own father. I said, you have a right to cut it out of your life. And she said, Dad, can I know some of them? I said, I ask you, can you see any of them? He said, I'm not aware. I said, well. So I pointed one out. I pointed two. I said, hey, He said, so I said, not only you, but these children. I'm not only this year. The children are, he said, Dad, stop it. I said, oh, I should stop. I said, but that is the way life is wired. Inherit assets and liabilities. And some of these people have done some things. There are some things my forefathers did, the effect of which have lasted from my father to me, and I have to do something not to pass it on. But if I pass it on to whoever I pass it on, they can refuse to inherit it. My father had 6 wives, not at once. My father was a serial monogamist. You know who a serial monogamist is? Somebody who at any point in time, I mean, some of you, probably your fathers, you keep quiet looking at me like I'm a devil. Not at any, my father married 6 different women. Not at any time was there more than a woman in the house. My mother came, no, the first person before my mother came, dropped 1 child and left. My mother came, dropped 6, and she died. Another person came, dropped 1 and left. Another person came, dropped another 1 and left. Then another person came and dropped 3, or was it 4? That's how we have. It was a serial monogamist. My father said, no, I don't have 2 wives, 1. I said, we understand that. So, you know, some of these things, whether you know it or not, is why our fathers have eaten sour grapes. And we, the children, our teeth are set on edges. But many times, you don't know when you are marrying that beautiful lady, that is not everything about her that is beautiful. Oh, you are marrying the beard on that man's face. The man has more fiery demons behind him than the beautiful beard on his face. Look at your neighbor and say, are you still here? No, you see, because the point is that there are some things that happen, you can't explain it. And that is why you need prayer. God will prescribe you, know what he's saying. There are some things too deep for you to address. Only prayer can get to the root of family issues. Only prayer. If you know some people's background, you don't even talk to them, not talk about marrying them. But when you are marrying them, they didn't write it on their face that their father used to be a masquerade. When the father of your bride was a masquerade, and you think that there will be no masqueradian issues, of course you're going to have to contend with that. And God says, you don't need any other prescription. I know it. A history you don't know. And he's the one who can prescribe. Prayer is to get to the root of issues. Until you learn to pray, you will not address root issues. And it's the root that determines the fruit. Most time you don't see the root, do you? What you see is the fruit. But you don't know that the root has issues. And God, who knows about it, recommend. And that's the reason why we suffer. Many are the affliction. Actually, the word many there in Psalm 34 says, diverse and varied are the afflictions of the righteous. With the 2 points I've given, you can see. Number 3 reason why we suffer is as a result of living in an evil and a fallen world. You and I are living in an evil and a fallen world. Do you know who the God of this world is? He's called Satan. Satan is the God of this world. Ephesians 2:2 says, is the spirit that walketh in the spirit of the power of the air. The spirit that walketh in the children of disobedience. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 3 and 4 says, if the gospel is hidden, it is hidden to them who are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them that believe not, lest the glorious light of the gospel of Christ, which is the image of God, should shine upon them. Satan is the God of this world. When you live in this world, we are not of this world. John 17:14 says, John 17:16 says, Jesus said, I'm not of this world, even as you are not of this world. But we are living here. And the God of this world is Satan. And 1 John 5:19 says, the whole world lies in the lap of the wicked one. When you live in this world, it's only prayer that can surround you with the armor of divine protection. That is why he says what? Pray without ceasing. Have you heard about people standing by the roadside and some 2 people fighting somewhere shoot a bullet and the bullet did not kill any of them, it's the person standing who knows nothing. It is one of the orchestration of Satan. That is why it says, pray without ceasing. You've seen building collapse. You've seen car have accident. Everybody in the car will not die. Only one person will die. I've seen all of these things. Those are orchestration of Satan. Ephesians 4:27 says, it says, resist the devil. No, it says, give no place to the devil. Don't give place to him. A prayerless person gives place to the devil to attack him cheaply. A prayerless person has a divine covering around him. Prayer sets the angels on assignment. Psalm 34 verse 7, the angel of the Lord encamp around them that trust in him and deliver them. What is there to deliver us from, if not from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence? Psalm 91 verse 3 says, surely he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. But what will make him deliver me? He said, call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me. And prayer is God's way of you and I calling on him. Now, number 4 reason, you can see why many of us are mistreated, ill-treated, many of us suffer, many of us go through pain, because we are in this world, we are not of this world, and the whole world lies in the lap of the wicked one. Number 4, we suffer as believers as part of God's plan for our lives. How many of you know that as a child of God, there are certain things that happen as part of his plan for your life? Just as going to the cross was part of God's plan for Jesus, there are certain challenges you are going to go through as part of God's plan for your life. At times, you go through the wilderness on your way to the promised land. There are certain things that happen as part of God's plan. Look at Job. In Job chapter 1, he was the greatest man in the East. By the time you get to Job 42, he was the greatest man in the earth. Look at Joseph. Joseph had a vision, had a dream. God gave him a dream. Before he get into the dream, he was sold into slavery, and he went to prison for an offense he did not commit. Oh, someone said, of what value is that? There are certain things that teach us lessons that theory cannot teach us. Joseph had a vision, but he was not hardworking. How can your vision speak without hard work? Your vision can never come to pass without hard work. And so God had to re-educate him. There are certain sufferings you are going to go through. Look, I tell people today that today I am what I am because of the things I learned when I suffered. There are certain sufferings that are good for you because they teach you lessons you cannot learn any other way. Talking about Jesus, in Hebrews chapter 5 verse 8, he said he learned obedience by the thing that he suffered. He learned obedience by the thing that he suffered. And when he became perfect, he became the author of eternal life to them that seek him. So there are certain sufferings, there are certain troubles that teach you common sense. The psalmist said in Psalm 119 verse 71, he said, before I was afflicted, I went astray. What means he was going astray? And so in verse 67, before I was afflicted, I went astray. Now in verse 71 of Psalm 119, he said, it is good for me to have been afflicted. You remember we are talking about, is any among you afflicted? Because when you see Christians, the way they treat affliction, it's like, pack your way and go. There are some things that are good. That's what Paul said. Our light afflictions, which are just for a moment, worketh for us, not against us. Not against us. A farmer is exceeding an eternal weight of glory. Look at Psalm 23, verse 4. He said, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Why? Thy rod and thy staff. Rod is for beating the disobedient. and then step is to lead them back to the road that they should go. Some of you need road. Some people will never come to prayer meeting except they lose their job. Some women never come for prayer meeting except their marriage becomes something that they are no longer enjoying. They enjoy their marriage so much they forget God. So when the heat is the marriage, you shouldn't be a meeting. Oh Lord. Oh. There are some people in our church when I was pastoring. When I see them, I didn't say, something is happening. You know, I always tell people this when they ask, are you hearing from your son or daughter? I said, no, I'm not hearing. They said, I hope they are fine. I said, they are fine. They say, you're not hearing from them. I said, if I hear from them, it's because something is not working. So they must be okay. If I don't hear from them, so it's okay. So, number 4, and that's what I'm talking about. Why do people suffer? You suffer as part of God's plan. There are certain sufferings that are good for you. Number 5. Why do Christians suffer? Why? Or why am I on attack? Why am I going through pain? Number 5. Why do I go through pain? Let me go like this. It's because of righteousness. Righteousness' sake. If you want to live right, how many of you know that if you are going to live according to the things according to the word of God, you are going to suffer? 2 Timothy 3:12. He said, they that shall live godly in this world shall suffer persecution. Jesus said it in John 16:33. He said, these things have I written unto you, that in me you will have peace. In the world, he said, you will have what? Tribulation. You know what tribulation is? Tribulation is the senior brother of persecution. 3. Tribulation. Suppose you are persecuted. Oh, you are still in class 2. Class 3 is ahead. Tribulation. There are people who suffer for being Christians. How many of you know that? Do you know in your place of work you can suffer from? I know medical students in UI who spent 2 extra years because they put Jesus saves. Many of you don't even put Jesus saves. Christians are the most hated citizens in this world. This medical student was put Jesus saves. So the professor looked at me and said, oh, Jesus will not save you from me. He said, he will. He said, let's see. For 2 years, the boy was failing the same exam. But Jesus saved him. The last time he passed, the professor was on a mission. He had stroke. He had to go and greet him. He said, I told you Jesus saves. I told you. Jesus saved him eventually. But the professor had for righteousness' sake, you suffer. Some tenants will reject you because you are a Christian. They say, this is how you are going to be praying to claim my house. And turn my house to your house and say, wherever the source of your fish are taught has become yours. And they drive you out. People think that Christianity is a flowery bed of ease. No! In the community where I come from, when you say you're a Christian, you're a candidate for death. You are hated because you are a Christian. Some people don't just like you. John 15:25, Jesus said they hated me without a reason. John 16:2, he said the time is coming when them who kill you will think they are doing God a service. This is why you need to pray always. God told me, he said, you need it. I know what you need. Matthew 6:8. I know what you need. You are there arguing that you think you know what you need. Do you know those who hate you? The Bible said in Psalm 69:4, they are more than the hair on your head. Even for those who don't have hair, you have hair follicle points. Count the number of hair on your head. Those are the numbers of people that hate you without a reason. Just because you are a Christian. The Bible says in 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 16, it says, There are some people who are going to suffer according for being a Christian. Suffer for being a Christian. It may not be so apparent. Suffer for being a Christian. Jesus told me years ago, he said, I suffered. Why do you think the world will accept you? Why are you deceived that they will accept you? Why are you deceived that they will like what you do? He said they crucified me because they hated me without any reason. If they hate you, if they hate me, they will hate you. The Bible says if you suffer according to the will of God, there is a suffering according to the will of God, there is a suffering for righteousness' sake. Philippians 1:29. He said, unto you it is given on the behalf of Christ, not only to believe on him, but to what? Suffer for his name's sake. You don't just believe on him, but suffer. There is no Christianity without suffering. Let me say it again. There is no Christianity without suffering. The emblem of Christianity is a cross. The Bible got to you by people who suffered. The faith got to you by people who suffered. This church you are in is built on the foundation of many who suffered before now. Go and ask the pastor when this church started, what he, his spouse, and the founding father of this church suffered or went through. You are now entering in on the harvest of their labor. You don't want to suffer. It's now your turn to suffer. I was telling my sons, and I have sons, I was telling them, I said, your suffering will not be like my own, but you suffer your own suffer. I said, my suffering was different from that of my father. Your own suffering will be different, and your own children will also suffer their own. Nobody will come to this world without suffering something. Look at your neighbor and say, are you suffering something? Every one of us have had to suffer something. Before I came to this point preaching like this, I suffered. I was riding Suzuki 100. OY8405Y. That's for you to know how suffering has put it in my mind. What you went through in the hand of your auntie is there in your memory. Nobody can take it away. You need to tell the story to your children and your children's children. We tell them the sweet part. I tell them both sweet and sour. The God of the valley is also the God of the mountains. He said after you have suffered a while, our light affliction which are just for a while, work it for us. I always tell people, you see my glory, you don't know my story. We went somewhere and one woman saw me. She was so impressed, when she saw everything was in place, beautiful car, everything. She came to me and said, I thank God for your life. I said, thank God. Thank you very much, man. He said, I want my husband to be like you. I said, no. She said, why? I want him to be like you. I said, if you want him to be like me, then we'll have to go through what I went through. I said, go and ask my wife. By the time we had discussion with my wife, I said, if you know this man, and how we married, how I had only 3 dresses, and we had to go to maternity on the motorcycle. God bless you if you don't have accident on that motorcycle. Pregnancy and people will be lost. So the woman came and said, I'm sorry, I don't want my husband to be like you. Why do people suffer? Number 6, because of our foolishness and our unpleasant behavior, living without counsel. That's why you are going through pain. You suffer for your foolishness. Choose the wrong husband. Choose the wrong wife. Choose the wrong relationship. You make the wrong financial decision. The Bible says if you're wise for yourself. If you refuse instruction, you are going to bear it. We suffer because of our foolishness. Living without counsel. Living with disregard to God's way of things. They hear word. They listen. You get here, they use them. They say don't. He said, she preserved me well, like Samson. Counsel in the heart of a man is like deep waters. That's why you need prayer. You see, if every of our decision will not be right, and any wrong decision, you suffer for it. And when you suffer, the only thing that can bring you out is prayer. Look at Jonah. Jonah made a decision. God said, go like this. He went like this. A fish swallowed him. What brought him out? Prayer. Prayer brought him out of the fish's belly. The Bible said he cried by reason of his affliction inside the belly of the fish. If Jonah can pray inside a whale's belly, where can't you pray? I wish that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hand. Jonah was lifting up hand inside the belly of a fish. Paul and Silas, in the middle of a prison, they prayed. Your heart is broken. Jesus was hanging on the cross. He prayed. Number 7, reason why we suffer, because Satan is attacking us. Every child of God is a candidate of attack. The day that Peter said, when Jesus asked them, Matthew 16:13, who do people say I, the Son of Man, am? People say, oh, some people say you are Jeremiah. Some people say you are Elijah. Some people say you are one of the sons of the prophet. Say, what do you say I am? You say you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. He said, Jonah, you are blessed. Flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but the Spirit of my Heavenly Father. Immediately he had that revelation, the devil started chasing him. Until the day came when they said, you are with him. He said, I don't know the man at all. I don't know the man. Who was attacking him? The devil. Your revelation is a threat to his kingdom. Your commitment to be serving in God as a threat to his life. And it's going to come for you. It's not only the pastors that the devil come for. Come for the pastor's members too.